Joining us now is pollster and communications strategist Frank Luntz. Frank, always great to have you on. Thanks for making time for us this afternoon. I want to start first with some reporting from the Washington Post that Trump aides are working on Trump's image, and they write in part the intent is to soften his image and sidestep his false claims of a stolen election, views on January 6, 2021 riot, and the GOP debate over abortion, which millions of Americans have recoiled from as he seeks a return to the White House. You spend a lot of time with voters as they are thinking about and processing who they might want to vote for in November. Do you think that this image softening that they're trying to do is working? Could it work? How are they viewing the former president at this point?
Well, based on the segment that you just ran, it's interesting because we've been focus grouping and polling it over the last few weeks. And the public does not want a politicization of the civil service or a politicization of the judiciary. What they want is accountability. What they want and demand are results. And they're looking for someone to basically take the politics out of government and put in a more efficient, more effective, and more accountable civil service, judiciary, and all the elements of government. So it's a really good question to ask right now. And the public is very clear about this. As much as they agree with their side, and 45% are on the right, and 45% are on the left, as much as they agree with that, they still want a sense that the judiciary, that the civil service, that the government overall, that the government actually works for them and provides results and takes the politics, partisanship, and polarization out of the federal government.
And yet the former president has been very open, and his allies, about wanting to use the federal government potentially against people who've been critical of him. They have plans that are pretty political. Do you see the voters making that connection or no?
I see the voters making the connection because it matters a lot to them. That even though it's not been a Biden focus, and even though Trump has mentioned it in his campaign rallies, the public is saying one of the reasons why the public is not running behind Joe Biden right now is that they feel like the government doesn't work for them. And one of the reasons why Trump hasn't quite yet sealed the deal is that they're afraid that he's going to put in his politics into how these things work. The key right now is not your Trump base, which is significant. It's now up to 40%. And it's not Biden's base, which is somewhere around 35%. What matters, and it's only 4% of the country,
wow,
the undecided voters in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And among undecided voters, often independents who don't like either candidate, what they really don't like is the politics and polarization. What they really don't like is the negativity. So every time Trump attacks Biden, every time, his supporters love it, but these undecided voters cringe. And every time Biden tries to go back to the 4 years of the Trump presidency, the exact same thing happens. Make no mistake, the national numbers don't matter. These other states don't matter. I hate to say this to your viewers, but it's only Pennsylvania, it's only Michigan, it's only Wisconsin, and the candidate that is the least political, the candidate that reminds people the least of the divisions and the politics of the last 8 years is the candidate who wins those voters.
That is fascinating. All right, Frank Luntz, always great to talk with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.